So we are on game 5 tonight, everybody. And Magnus played against Bjorn Erik Glenn in this game, and this guy is a fellow Norwegian who was 19 years older than him. So Magnus was about 12 when he played this game, and Glenn was about 31. So big age mismatch, but as some of you may know, age is nothing in chess. So here we go. Magnus had the black pieces, and we see this Queen's Gambit-like structure. And much like in the proper Queen's Gambit, white is able to win the pawn back. And the engine says knight to f3 would have been better on this move. I think bishop takes c6 check is maybe less accurate because it helps black to develop. You generally don't want to be the one to trade. You want to let them trade with you, because when you initiate the trade, often you're inviting one of the opponent's pieces to a more active square when they recapture, and that's exactly what we see here. You know, when the bishop takes, you're actually inviting black to make his knight better. So to take is a mistake. That's the way you can remember that. And white now develops the knight. Black gets the queen in the game. White decides to trade off the queens. Magnus gets his knight to a good square. White develops the bishop with tempo. And Magnus plays a nice multi-purpose move, castling the king and also defending the pawn. And some more developing moves. White improves the knight with tempo. He's threatening to go knight takes f7. So Magnus trades off the knight. The bishop takes. Magnus kicks the bishop around a little bit, makes it go back, goes back with the knight, unleashes the rook to defend the pawn. And notice here how white wants to keep his bishop. This is starting to look like an endgame, and we've got pawns on both sides of the board. And in those cases, bishops are better than knights. So it could be advantageous if black could trade off his knight for white's bishop. So white wants to avoid that, so he brings his bishop back. Magnus brings up the bishop, rook defends, and this is better than capturing with the pawn because it keeps the rook more active. If we had taken with the pawn, we could have seen this, and then king to f1, and the rook is just not that good at the moment. So better is to take with the rook. Magnus does play this move. We see the knight get kicked. Some more moves, and in this move, this is interesting. White is indirectly defending d4. Do you see what white has if black takes on d4 with the knight? What do you think white's going to do? Yeah, that's probably the first thing you should look at is sacking the rook. Checks come first. It's an interesting idea.
There's a pin
Yeah,
at one point at the end. Because
potentially. Yeah, the knight.
I just looked at the, uh,
You looked at it. Yeah.
yeah.
So this is so black does not want to take this. This is the engine line that it will give if the knight takes. Rook goes to d3, and we're skewering the knight to this pawn and skewering the knight to this pawn. Knight goes to c2. These are the best moves according to the engine. Knight goes here, rook goes here. Rook takes, the bishop is quite good on this long diagonal, better than the knight with pawns on both sides of the board, as I was saying before. So this is a nice position here for the bishop. All right, so g4 here was played instead of taking. Rook a to c1, doubling up and threatening to take. So c6 is played by Magnus. And now Magnus plays the move pawn to h4. He wants to open this line for his rook. And now white plays this move, and black can take 4 different pawns in this position. And any of the 4 captures would be winning for black. I've checked it with the engine. That is true, as crazy as it sounds. But Magnus, being Magnus, finds the best one. Of course he does. So what do you guys think is the best one? Without looking at it, tell me, which one do you think? Which pawn capture would you say is probably best? You've got four options. Kind of overwhelming.
H takes G3.
Correct. Yeah, that is the best one. H takes G3, and it's wild because you're sacrificing the knight, but this is the best one, and this is what Magnus played. Um, yeah, if white takes the knight, what does black do? I'll go ahead and play this move. What would you do here as black?
Win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good answer.
G takes H2, king comes up, then G3.
Mm. Yeah, G3 is nasty. That is part of the idea. If G takes and king up, you've also got immediately rook to E2, and then you're attacking the bishop, probably threatening to promote eventually as well.
Oh yeah,
And
that's it.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll show you the line. G takes H2 is correct. King to G2, and then best move rook to E2. King H1 to try to stop the pawn. G3 happens, like you were saying, and now there's no reasonable way to stop G2 checkmate. There's nothing you can do. You can just give away your pieces and delay it for a moment, but yeah, black is going to checkmate white here. So that is really nice. And so, yeah, let's see here. So H takes, rook to H1 check could now come at any moment. Knight takes, Magnus is now up a pawn. White takes one pawn, black takes one pawn, but now white's pawns are pretty weak. White's got these doubled pawns, and that's not very good for him. Attacking the knight twice, so he's got to do something about it, but he plays the check first, trades things off, wins another pawn. Magnus is now up two pawns. We see the capture, we see some trades, and maybe a little bit questionable to trade down by white in this position, because usually trading into a king and pawns endgame when you're down two pawns is kind of asking for a guaranteed loss. To be fair, he did double Magnus's pawns, and maybe he thinks his king can get up there and try to get active, but the thing is, even if Magnus were to lose one of these pawns, a single passed pawn in a king and pawn endgame with other pawns on the board is usually a winning advantage. So we see a few more moves here. White plays this move. Magnus gets his king up. Magnus plays this move. He's limiting white's possible moves. He doesn't want to give ground with his king. He can't push his g-pawn. His only good moving options are to move the a pawn and the b pawn, and he's soon going to run out of moves for them. Black is just going to take away all of white's options, and then this is the nice thing about these endgames. If you can make it the opponent's move, you're going to eventually make it so their king has to go back, and then you can just push them out using the opposition. It's a very powerful idea. So white resigned here in this position, and the 19 years younger Magnus reigns supreme over his opponent. But let's play on here, because there's still some lessons to take from this endgame. Would you be tempted to play f4 here as black? And what do you think would happen if you did? Yeah, go ahead and tell me, for the more advanced people who probably see what's going to happen, tell me, do you think it's a loss or do you think it's a draw for black if you play f4? Yeah, you're right. It's a loss. You're up two pawns, but if you play f4 here, unbelievably, it is a loss for black if white knows what he's doing. So look at this. This is crazy. So the king, I guess maybe it's reasonable to not even take, but I mean then white's getting this, and he's got this passed pawn, and when he uses this as a decoy, he's going to be closer to the remaining pawns. That's the crucial thing. His king's going to be closer than black's, and so if something like that happens, that plays to white's advantage. So he's probably going to take. King goes here, and this is the thing in endgames, number of pawns doesn't necessarily matter as much as king position. Like the black king is totally cut off here. And once you let the other king get a completely dominant position like this one, there's not much that you can do to fight back. Black is doomed here despite having been two pawns up. So you have to be really careful about not letting the enemy king get active. in the endgame. But even here, we're still not done. There's still some interesting wrinkles in this position. Right here, you can't be pre-moving. You can't be playing on autopilot if you're white. You have to play this move pawn to a6, very necessary so that you don't lose the pawn. And then you go like this, and here white is going to need to play king to b8 and win that way. What if he plays king to a8? It's not very logical, I know, but tell me, what do you guys think? If king to a8, is this a win or is this a draw now? Very good, very good. Yeah, if king to a8, the game becomes a draw because black has this cool idea of trapping the king on the a file. So this would be a big mistake. This is a common drawing idea whenever one side has a rook pawn, king to a7. And how do you continue the trap here with black? King to c6 or
King
king to
goes up.
c8? Correct, yeah, king to c8 is the move. This continues because like you're okay with it if he escapes this way, because this allows you to control the queening square. And because it's a rook pawn, you know that if you get your king to the queening square, it's going to be a draw. So that's completely fine. If you had gone here, white would escape this way, and he's going to promote, so you can't do that. And yeah, we would have seen, potentially we could have seen something like this. I'll show you how it could have gone. If he pushes the pawn, king to c8, you just keep blocking him, and funnily enough, white is the one who ends up stalemated. So that's a helpful endgame trap to know about if you ever have a rook pawn. All right, so that is the game. Does anyone have any questions or any comments about the game?
Can I distract you tomorrow?
Yeah, you can always distract me.
Yeah. Well, was the opponent like a grandmaster or an international master or?
I don't know. I
Oh,
would
okay,
have
gotcha.
to, yeah, I'm not sure actually. That's a good
I was
question.
just curious because he
Yeah,
played a good game. He played a good game.
nice.
Yeah, I think the opening was weird though. Like,
Interesting.
yeah, because that was a really powerful bishop. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you can distract me. We don't have chess club on Wednesdays, so you're very welcome. I might not
How
even notice.
distracting. Yeah. That
All
was
right.
that was good. That was good game
Yeah, thanks,
by
coach.
a
Glad you liked
12-year-old.
it. Yeah, yeah, definitely. So impressive. We've been doing so many young Magnus games here. He's so impressive.
Yeah. Didn't he become like a Canvas master when he was like 13 too?
I don't know. I mean, you would think, yeah, he's playing at a great level, so it would not surprise me at all if that's true.
Yeah. Like I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest, that's good even for Canvas master.